I'm Makini Smith. After going through a divorce, my sister passing away, experiencing narcissistic abuse, and some significant health scares, I realized through sharing my story that I wasn't alone in my suffering. Suffering, subjective distress generated by the experience of being out of balance. In a deep dive to holistically heal mind, body, and soul is where I discovered peace, clarity, and connection. It is impossible to be truly wise without some real-life hardship, and we cannot develop post-traumatic wisdom without making it through, and most importantly, through it together. Social connection builds resilience, and resilience helps create post-traumatic wisdom, and that wisdom leads to hope. Hope for you and others witnessing and participating in your healing, and hope for your community. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. Tressa Mann is a certified motivational speaker, business coach, and author specializing in leadership, resilience, confidence, women empowerment, and business development. With over 25 years of experience, she empowers individuals to discover their purpose, set goals, build confidence, and overcome challenges. As the CEO of Convicted to Grow Coaching, LLC, Tressa offers coaching programs and workshops focusing on personal growth, leadership, business development, and entrepreneurship in the DC metropolitan area. So please welcome to the show, Tressa Mann.
Hello. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for saying yes. As I was saying to you before we hit record, I always appreciate when someone is willing to come on and to be transparent and share and be vulnerable. And you and I connected through Threads because I don't know, I love Threads compared to, the former Twitter. I find the community more supportive, more engaging. And I have met some amazing humans in the last few months on Threads. And you responded to a post that I did. And I appreciate that you openly are sharing your pain and how you transmuted that into your purpose. And that's what this whole show is about. So thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome. I appreciate it. I'm glad. Look, thank you for Threads because you're right. I wasn't ever a Twitter fan, but Threads I'm trying to get used to, and you're right. And I'm following like podcast Threads, and I saw your stuff come up. I said, okay, let me check her out. Let me follow her and send her a message. So yeah, so thank you.
Yes, I love connecting with like-minded people. And I find that this show, or even to hosting the show, allows me to connect deeper with people that, I've had surface level connections with. Social media, you think you know somebody, but you never really do. But being able to, get more into their backstory or their healing journey or why they even think the way that they do. So before we get to where you are presently, I would love to know, what did you want to be as a little girl? Society has a way of shaping us and making us, I'm going to say, minimize our fantasies and our beliefs and negatively affecting our paradigms. So before that interference came in, wow. I would love to know, what you wanted to be as a little girl.
Oh my God. Surprisingly, I didn't really figure out what I wanted to be until I got right into middle school. But, everybody, everybody, of course, have the standard, the doctor, the nurse, the lawyer. I actually wanted to be an actress. It's crazy because I didn't take any classes until later on, but I wanted to be an actress. I knew when I was younger, I knew something about me was different. And that actually from second grade, I remember one day the teacher sent a paper home and to my mom, and she wanted permission to put me in a special class. And then when you think of special class, let's just keep it real. A lot of times people think of special ed. Mm-hmm. And it was a class of students that they had hand selected and picked picked called GT, which is gifted and talented. And I remember I cried because one, I felt, because again, I'm young, I'm in the second grade. I felt like that class, I didn't want to be out from my, let's just say my friends who were all, of course, the minority. And my mom signed the paper and I did not want to go to this class because it was literally like 15 of us. So even though most, like again, the special ed classes are smaller, this GT gifted and talent class was smaller. So we did things differently. And honestly, I was the only brown girl in that class. And I was mad at my mom. I was mad at the teachers. And I'm like, why would they pick me? And so fast forward, I just remembered that just from that second grade when you said that. I just like, why am I different? Why I'm getting picked for this and picked for that? I didn't see it, but as I got older, I always knew that there were certain things. I always stood out. My energy attracted people. So I wanted to be an actress. And yeah, again, don't ask me why. But I just wanted to be an actress. I just was fascinated of being something and portraying different roles or whatever, so to say.
I love that. I love that in so many different ways. And thinking about, that the part where you talked about going to the GT class. If you think about us as kids, all we want to do is fit in. We want to be with our friends. We want to be like everybody else. And isn't it interesting how, you're gifted, you're special, you're being separated and put into this different level of class, and you're like, I don't want to. Don't we
Oh,
do that as adults?
yes. And I used to get picked on because my friends didn't understand while I'm over there. Of course, the one I'm standing out. Like I have a picture, a matter of fact, where they put me in. We did a group photo, and I'm just a little bitty person, second grade, and I'm the only. They put me right in the dab in the middle. And but hey, like I said, it was a small class, and I was just like, man. But God knew, God knew what He was doing. So yeah.
So I can't even imagine then as a child what that felt like to be the only brown girl, because I know now, like I'm about to turn 44, and I've had in the last 5 to 10 years, many times I'm in a room or in an environment where I am either the only Black woman or the only Black person. And I know how that can feel. So I can only imagine what that felt like for you as a child.
Yeah. 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 Like I said, I always stood out. So I tried to fit in. And that's the thing, me fitting in, it was like I was limiting myself. Fitting in limit me. I'm glad I got pushed up. Shout out to, I don't even know if they're still living, but Miss Craig and Miss Starr. I remember them. Like I said, it was just these special classes that they handpicked based on, I guess, the level of testing or the comprehension, because I was a quick learner. I was fortunate enough, and of course, both of my parents were not college educated. They come from the blue collar world. So I was fortunate enough that I had to learn everything on my own. I didn't have my parents sitting down helping me with homework. Like I would come home and do my homework and be done with it and go outside and play. So yeah.
I get it. I get it. My mother was a single mom. My parents split when I was a few months old. My mother was a single mom, working multiple jobs. So, like you, it's like there's no adult there to sit down with you and help you with a homework or, do a lot of those things that we had to learn on our own or do without the parental support. And it's not, their fault. Obviously they're in a position, they're doing the best they can with what they have, trying to survive. But I would love to know, like, how, or not necessarily how, what did you learn about emotions growing up, and how has that helped you and or hurt you?
Whew. I've learned, it's funny you say that, and because I had just through my childhood year and even till teens and stuff like that, what I did learn was emotions. A lot of times for me, I would maybe suppress those emotions or hide those emotions. I was always a person that didn't like conflict. Like I never liked conflict at all. When I would see people argue or what, I would just, and it carried on to my adult life because you know how they say sometimes we mask our pain, we suffer in silence, and we put on this facade like, hey, how you doing? I'm doing
Mm,
good, girl. Blessed and highly favored. But
mm,
behind closed doors, there's a lot of emotions. And so, yeah, younger, I had learned the art of masking or just pretty much separate. I was not the person you would not know because I'm so used to being the strong one. Even in my
mm,
family, everybody looks at Tressa like she got it all together. She's strong and all this stuff. But because people look at me as this strong, got it going on person, young woman, female to this 45-year-old woman today, it was just that pressure to keep it like this. But
mhm,
like you said, behind closed doors, and then those when you get to that vulnerable stage, that one-on-one talk with God, now you can,
mm.
be yourself and cry out to God, like, Father God, I need you right now. So yeah, so that's pretty much.
Wow. Okay. So from someone who has, as a child, suppressed their emotions to now you're being open about your journey with grief,
Mhm.
what shifted for you?
Yeah. So, with the grief thing, so I know there's different forms of grief. And I've always, whenever there was a grief season in my life, when someone would pass away, it was a moment where it would be there, and then for whatever reason it just fizzles out and it fades away. And I'll go back, like, even in 2001 when my aunt was murdered by her
Wow.
um ex-boyfriend due to domestic violence. And I remember he had shot her several times in front of the kid, his
Mhm.
kid, including my daughter. My daughter at the time was only like 2 years old. She was actually watching my daughter because I was still young. I had my child. I had Aaliyah at 19 years old, 18 years old, excuse me. So had her at 18. So at a young age, I remember, she's my aunt. So I dropped her off so she could watch my daughter. And of course, she had her kids who were middle-aged kids, middle school kids. But I still have to say, I remember when she got shot and got killed. That was a moment of emptiness. I was grateful that, of course, the kids, he didn't hurt the kids, but I went through a period of, at that time, was trying to understand from God, like, why was
Mm,
I not protected, questioning God, why was this? And I went through a moment where I numbed myself. Sometimes I would self-medicate myself, maybe with drinking alcohol or whatever, but I just couldn't understand. And throughout the years, I never went and got therapy on it, never did anything like that. It's just a matter of just going through the years of it kind of just, but they say business as usual. So it's back to business. So I have went, that was one of the, tragic things as far as the grief. And of course that was in 2001, but years went by, and, throughout the years, we all have experienced grief. I've had, family members, uncles and aunts, grandparents passing away. Like, I've had several people pass away in my life. And some of it, is like you kind of know it's going to happen because of their age or whatever health situation they got going on. But in 2022 was a different year for me. Of course, my grandmother, the last grandmother on my dad's side, passed away. We knew that was coming, age. Then in July, my uncle, who I kind of looked up as a dad figure, always looked out for me. Like, I'm his favorite niece. He would help me if wherever I moved. Those favorite uncles you have.
mhm,
And he was, he didn't drink, didn't smoke, and he always a fitness guru and, great dude. In July of 2022, I got the call. It was on a Monday. I got the call, and they said, your uncle, they found him dead in the house. And it took me back for a minute because I'm like, how, why? And just his job did a welfare check. That's how we found out.
wow.
And causes unknown. Found out he had been sick for a while with some upper respiratory issues. We don't know if it came from the COVID and whatever. And so that was in July. So I could say the July 2022, that a different grief hit me, a different type
Mhm,
of grief, because I'm like, wow, this person. And it affected me. I spoke at the funeral, and I kind of, again, because of those childhood emotions, I didn't really want to be around nobody. I just wanted to, even after the funeral, when everybody drove, because the funeral and the hotel was near each other, it was like maybe a few blocks. people, they drove back to the hotel. I decided to actually walk. I was like, no, I need to walk. And even though it was probably about maybe 10, 12 blocks, I just wanted to walk back to the hotel. I didn't want to get in the car. I just wanted to walk, clear my head. And so dealing with that grief, and it kind of put a thing in my mind where, oh my gosh, the fear of going to sleep at night. Like, what happened? Now I got this mind playing tricks on me where I didn't want to go to sleep at night. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And, I would tell my partner, I would tell him, and he'd be like, why are you sleeping on the sofa? And I would like play it off. And I'm like, oh, I'm just like feeling the time of the month. Like I would make up all these excuses, but I wasn't even telling him it was a fear of just going to sleep, what happened to my uncle. So now fears inside. And so that went on for maybe a couple months, July. So then we had August, September, October. So then November, November the November 7th, the night of November 7th, normal day as usual. And I was working late in the office, in the house. And my partner, who I had been with for 4.5 years, we had, just like I said, normal night as always. And he came upstairs and he was just like, hey, I'm going to go to bed. I said, all right, good night. And he said, don't stay up too late. I said, I'm not. And at the time, about 11 o'clock p.m. And then about 11:10, 11:15, so it hadn't been long, he called me in the office. No, he called me in the bedroom. He was like, hey, Tressa, you got a second? And I was like, okay. Nothing, nowhere in his voice that gave me any alarm, like something was wrong. For just some reason, I was just like, okay. Normally, I would give him a hard time. Like, don't you see me in here working? Like, you come to me. But for some reason, I didn't give him no lip that night. I was just like, okay. So I walked towards the bedroom. And as I walked in the bedroom, he's just standing there. He looking at me. I'm looking at him. He looking at me. I'm looking at him. And I said, you good? And he's a 6'2" dude. I'm 5'1". And I'm looking up. He looking at me. And he's like, yeah, I'm good. Just want to tell you something. I was like, okay, well, what you want to tell me? And he's like, I said, won't you sit down? And here goes the woman. Won't you sit down? Why are we standing up talking? Like, you got to tell me so. Let's sit down. He's, I'm good. I just want to tell you something. And because I think within maybe 2-3 seconds, he just collapsed right in front of me.
Oh, no.
Yeah, collapsed, literally. The immediate side of me just started jerking and hitting and grabbing and like, oh my gosh, wake up, what you doing? Call 911. They got there within 8 minutes. And when they got there, they, all the medical responders and came out, police, everybody came out working on him. And I'm hysterical, and they upstairs. By this time, they like, man, you got to go downstairs because we got to work, do our thing. And I'm like, okay. So I'm down on the middle level. So 3-level townhouse. So I'm in the middle level in the kitchen. I'm just crying. I'm calling, his kids, because he has adult kids. My family. And so I'm just there and I'm just hysterical. And then maybe within about 50 minutes, because they was up there for a long time.
Wow.
And so within about 55 minutes, a chapel came in. And the chapel came in and I was like, what is this dude doing here for? Who is he? They said, oh no, he just want to pray with you. I'm like, well, why would he want to pray? I know how to pray. I understand it. And then they come back, and then that was so then into the next day, because it happened 11:15 at night, November 7th. So the next day, November the 8th, 12:25 a.m., they was like, he didn't make it. So he pretty much passed away in the bedroom.
Wow.
That moment, I say, changed my life. Like, and this is probably my first time really giving the true details. I've been on live in my journey because I started my TikTok journey over there, but people hear snips and pieces. But to give an interview about this, it changed my life. And I remember telling my parents, shout out to my parents. My parents are still living, thank God. And I remember telling my mom, because she didn't understand. I was like, I need to be to myself for a little bit. Because again, from the childhood emotions, I'm used to working. I'm used to dealing with my own. And so that happened in November 2022. Now we're about to go into Thanksgiving. I did spend a day or two with my family on Thanksgiving. It wasn't the same because I'm thinking like, dang, my uncle will usually be here. My partner, he will usually be here. I'm like, dang, this is the only man that really came into my life. Because I've had some crazy toxic relationships. We never got married, but he had proposed to me before, but we kind of was like, well, the timing got to be right of it. I'm like, man. And so I was just like, I don't really want to be around family. I need to be to myself. And then and then I was at this fear of staying at the house. So probably for about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, I stayed in the hotel. Like I went and spent money and just stayed in the hotel just to have that. I felt like with that, if something happened in the hotel, they're gonna vigilantly like coming in. So I did stay with one of my close friends. I mean, I had some people that say you can come stay with me, but I didn't want to stay at home. I felt empty.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go back home eventually because I was like, man, this money on this hotel's adding up. So when I did go back home, what I would do, I would keep the bedroom door closed, and then I would just stay in the middle level the whole time. And I
Wow.
like a prison in my own home. So
Mm-hmm.
fast forward, because I know you may want to ask questions, but fast forward. So I just felt like a prison in my own home. And I was like, I can't stay here. And I remember going into the holidays, Christmas and New Year's. I literally shut down. I didn't want to be around nobody. Now, my daughter, who's 20, she's 27 now, I think it was 26 at the time. I did spend I went to her house and, did a day there, just cause, but
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to be home on the sofa. And there were days I didn't even move. It was just days I had my same clothes on 2 or 3 days. Like going upstairs was so depressing. And I would walk in her bedroom was so cold. My clothes were still in there. And it was just, and seeing the spot where they had the IV in his arm and the little blood spot, I would cover that up. And I just was just in a space of depression. I was in a
Mm-hmm.
anxiety. I was in a space. Well, maybe I just medicate myself and drink bottled wine, numb my pain. I immediately seek therapy. I did do that. And I will encourage anybody who has dealt with any type of traumatic experience, because that was a traumatic experience for me,
Mm-hmm.
especially my person, and especially on my watch. And within probably 2 weeks after it happened, I did seek therapy. So even when I was staying at the hotel for a couple of days, I was doing virtual calls with this therapist. I saw
Mm-hmm.
him twice a week for about 5 or 6 months, and then it went to once a week. So I did total therapy from November 2022 all the way to August of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't nothing but the grace of God. It wasn't nothing but just I did gain more close relationship to God. In the beginning, I questioned him. I was confused. I'm like, man, I'm by myself. I felt isolated. In 2023, last year, was my pivotal moment. I decided that I needed to leave that house. I felt like I was
Mm.
suffocating.
I was going to ask that.
Couldn't grow. I couldn't breathe. It was a lot. I just felt like, dang, this ain't it. I would cry. Now, what I just told you about my uncle. So now the fear of already not sleeping at night because of what happened to my uncle and his passing in his sleep, to now. And we found out later when we did the autopsy that my partner had passed away from a heart attack. It was a
Oh,
heart attack.
wow.
So, and he was only 52. So now I got a fear of going to sleep. Now I got a fear of if I go up the steps and my heart is racing. So I don't even want to go up the steps. I don't even want to make
Mm-hmm.
my heart. It was just everything, all these anxious moments. And my therapist said, you need to brain dump at night. And because it happened at nighttime, now I'm up, staying,
Mind racing.
staying up to 4 or 5 o'clock. And then I was just, my sleep habits was off because I wouldn't go to sleep until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. And now I'm sleeping till 11, 12 o'clock. It was throwing me off. It's throwing me off with my job. Like I took some time off from work. I work for myself, but I took time off with my
Yeah,
clients.
absolutely.
I say the healing for me started last year, probably around April of last year. Now I'm like, what, November, December, January. So I'm probably 6 months into this grief journey. And I remember, I was like, God, I said, I need to write my second book. 'Cause I wrote a first book in 2017. And I was like, man, why am I'm struggling to figure out what's my next move. And I remember praying, I said, God, if you let me see 45, I just want to see 45. Because some people don't even see 45.
Mm-hmm.
I was making myself sick with all these worry, because stress can worry you.
Mm.
I gained weight, everything. And I remember sitting here and I was looking at my first, it was at the other house. And I was like, remember opening up my book, and I was just looking and I said, oh my gosh. And in that first book that I wrote, which is titled, I Found Strength in My Struggles, chapter 7 of that first book is titled Convicted to Grow. Because that first book talked about my 20s and 30s and what I
Mm-hmm.
so it's crazy. I said, okay. And I feel like the spirit was telling me, you got to be convicted to grow and convicted to change it. So started changing my eating habits, started changing my mindset. I started like, God, and I was like, I need you. I need you right now. Like, it's just me and you. Therapy, prayer, meditation, have a great support system. When I turned 45, it's crazy because once I turned 45, that obedience burst favor. And since turning 45, I finally started sleeping back in the bedroom again. And even though I moved, I moved from Virginia to Maryland. I did a whole state.
Mm-hmm.
Now, even in the new house, I didn't sleep in the bedroom right away. And I was thinking, oh, well, maybe if I get new bedroom furniture and all that. I thought that it wasn't even, I had got a whole new bed. I got a whole new everything. I didn't want the house to look like the Virginia house.
Mm-hmm.
And I was still, I'm like, man. And I had to get out of my way. I had to get out of my way. And it was just really, truly nothing but the grace of God, being convicted to growing, being convicted to changing and saying, okay. And so from that point on, I started eating right, doing the kind of, I did an 85-day fast where I didn't have no meat, no alcohol, no sugar, dropped weight. And what did I do? And I just kind of, and then since then, I've been getting booked for more speaking engagements. I started launching my Convicted to Grow coaching. And then just this year, February 24, I launched the Convicted to Grow podcast where I give people an opportunity to come and speak about their resilient story or their growth journey. So it's like, man, and it's crazy because I felt like, dang, I've done more in these last since 45. I've done a lot at the age of 45. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop right there in case you have questions, but I just wanted to kind of say that because I was in the moment, just kind of give you a little build up how all this have transpired. And I tell anybody who goes through grief that if you don't get especially traumatic, the therapy would help me. I know, so I didn't want to be the people that go years and years and years and they like living in the past. And what I learned was living in the past, focusing on the past, I'm wasting time on my future and my now. And that's why I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be considered a victim because there are people that's worse off than me that experience more worse than me. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. You lost 3 loved ones in the same year.
Mm.
My condolences. I feel like all 3 obviously had to be traumatic. And no matter, how we lose a loved one, it is going to affect us. Our grief is an expression of love. I feel like the deeper that we love them, the deeper the grief that we feel. And I had lost in 2012, I had lost 2 loved ones. I lost my sister and my grandmother who helped raise me, both in the same year. So I know for me, the grieving process was different. So my question to you is like, was grieving each of them different for you?
Yeah. Yes. My grandmother, I didn't, I cried twice when I first heard the news and then the day of her funeral. And I remember I was not able to come home. So they had it back home about 5 hours away. And I was not able to, actually, I was not feeling well. And I remember, we still kind of in that telling of the COVID thing. But what they did for a lot of people who was not near, they actually did it through live. So live.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I was there live on virtual, it did still touch me because, I'm like, wow, and she was in her 90s, if I'm not mistaken. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, I did grieve for that, but that was just like a moment. And then I kind of went to, like, again, business as usual. My uncle, I was just shocked. It just kind of like, dang, he's here with me. I'm in the DMV area. So he's here with me. So he was my closest family member. Besides my daughter here, everybody else lived down Southern Virginia, like 5 hours away. But he was like my closest family member here who I could call if I needed anything, especially from a man perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So I grieved him. I don't think that I still was over his grieving part. I think it was starting to come down a little bit. But I think for me, like I said, that whole sleeping and stuff at night, and I was still thinking about him, especially during the holidays. Now with my partner, Dan, that's what I said. That was the longest time I spent grieving. That was,
Mm-hmm.
and I treated it differently because I didn't want to be around anybody. I did not like. There were some people, yes, that prayed with me and things like that, but I just I don't think people understood. I think people were so used because I'm so again, people love my energy. I'm attracted to energy. People, I'm always the doer, the giver. I'm always the hostess with the mostest. I'm always this.
Mm-hmm.
Dang, for once, here I am on low sale, 1%. I don't really have nobody pouring back into me. I had to learn my own coach and be my own.
Mm-hmm.
And so I knew I couldn't do that. I was like, I need time to think. Something got to give, something got to change. And so I had to work on me. And it was just, and I wouldn't change how I did worked on me. Everybody can't handle being in isolation, but I felt like that isolation is what propelled me to this elevation season
Mm-hmm.
where I'm at today.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
So, speaking of where you're at today, like, okay, so there's the 5 stages of grief, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Where do you feel you are today with your grief?
I feel like I am at acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that because every stage you just said, I done went through every stages. I feel
Mm-hmm.
like I'm at acceptance where I accept it. What I also did to help me, because I like a lot of times with grief, and some people can probably relate, some of your listeners probably can relate, especially when it's someone like your partner, that you have, let's just say, pillow talk with your significant other. I held on to his stuff for months. I'm talking about, and this man wearing 2X. So I'm holding on to clothes, socks. I'm just like, and somebody told me, that's like, Tressa, you gotta get that out. You gotta
Mm-hmm.
get that out because otherwise you still, I mean, I'm putting on the t-shirt at night, like, but then I can't figure out, all of a sudden I just bust out crying.
Mm-hmm.
Down, bust out crying. This was like last year. And because he was a veteran, I call Veterans of America because they come and pick up stuff and you donate. And I had probably about 8 bags of stuff. I mean, like everything. And then, matter of fact, they did 2 runs. They did the first run, and then I was like, but I still had a little bit more stuff. I was like, dang, I can't wear this stuff. So to this day, the only thing that really it's the memories is here in my mind. And
Mm-hmm.
then I have a few pictures on the phone, and then of course any gifts he gave me or something like that. And a watch. But for the most part, everything had to leave because I
Mm-hmm.
brought it over. Like even when I moved from Virginia to Maryland, I brought all that stuff over to the new house, and it's like,
You brought that energy.
yeah, I know
Mm-hmm.
that. So now I'm at an acceptance. Do I cry? No. There may be a moment, let's just say I'm hearing like a Leandra Johnson, Better Days Are Coming, or Marvin Sapp song. I'm like, oh, but yeah, I'm totally at that acceptance stage.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the more that we talk about it, because we're expressing it, we're able to speak about it more commonly without the heavy emotion.
Oh yeah,
Um,
if you would have got me last year with this podcast, you probably like, okay, girl, we're gonna have to cut because I would have been like, oh, like I already know.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
Mhm.
already know. And it's crazy. It's so funny because not funny, but that same week that he passed away, that 3 days later, I had already had a scheduled podcast interview, which is called God is My Source, by Lamont Durr. It's on Facebook as we speak. And not Facebook, but YouTube. And I had to do one 3 days later after he passed.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was a video.
Oh.
And he's like, Trust, he said, you still want to do this? I said, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. He will want me to do it. It wasn't about this type of call. It was about
Mhm.
me, business and entrepreneurship.
Mhm.
It just so happened that happened. So we talked a little bit about it. But that interview, I didn't have no voice from crying and yelling and
Mhm.
tell my eyes like, and that literally was November 2022 when I had that interview. So when I say to you is what we're talking about the healing, you would have got me last year. I know I wouldn't have been this strong to talk to you.
Mhm. Mhm. I get it. I get it. I know that, environment and the energy of physical things play a huge role. I had a traumatic experience a few years ago, and because my home kept reminding me of what happened, I not only moved from my house, but I got rid of all my furniture. I changed my car. I had to change everything so that I wasn't sitting in the energy of that pain. So when you talked about moving, when you talked about, getting new stuff, you talked about getting rid of his stuff. I get it. I feel you.
But that work, I didn't understand that. But now you see why some people, let's say when they lose their husband or their wife, and they holding on to that stuff for years and years, and they never went and met someone new again because they're sitting in that
Holding
pain
on to the energy. Mm-hmm.
But I didn't realize that. And you the second person said that. You holding on the energy. I was like, what? It's just a shirt. In my mind, it's like, his name was in this. Like, what you
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Every time you touch or connect with something that was theirs, it triggers a memory, right? And that memory, it sets off a chemical reaction in the brain, which then there goes the feelings, then there goes, the things that happen within our body. So we don't realize the benefit. A lot of people, especially if, so my partner, for example, he had lost both his parents in a short period of time. We've known each other since we were 15, and I was there for him through both of those things. And for years, he held on to everything of theirs. I'm like, you don't have the space to bring all this with you. When we decided to move in together, I didn't force it, but I made it very clear about the energy that I wanted to feel in my household of peace, of love, of safety, all of these things, and bringing all of these old memories that make you sad are not beneficial, right? So I'm glad he was able to understand that, but I know a lot of people don't get it. And sometimes it's not their fault. It's just understanding the depth of, what's happening.
Right.
Yeah. You talked about, you always being the strong one, you always being the support system, the life of the party, and not having that in return. I totally get. So what are some ways to support someone that is processing loss or grief? Because I feel like obviously everyone is different. Everyone may have different needs. But what are some ways that would have been helpful to you?
I think, like, for me, and again, everybody is different. For me, I can I can't have a lot of noise and chit chat, or a lot of, like, I don't have time to sit on the phone, because during that time everybody was calling. And that first 2 weeks, everybody called, including his friends or whatever. So imagine everybody calling like, oh my God, what happened? What happened? What I found myself doing during those first 2 weeks, when people was asking how I was doing, I also had to relive it every single time, because they
Yes.
trying to figure out, oh my God, what happened? How did you? So that story I just told you, imagine me saying it like 30 times till it got to the point where I'm just like, oh my God, like, we need to get on a Zoom call and y'all gonna record it and just play it out. I say that facetiously, but no, it was just at a place. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I would say, when you're, depending on who the person, there are some people who need the needy support. They need somebody that's there physically with them. Like, for me, I can say I didn't need that. If anything, you're like, I had people sending me voice texts, just praying that I could play, because I am a strong person. I had people sending me scriptures, or, hey, just thinking about you, just know you here. I would have people deliver me flowers. Like, those reminded me, like, okay, they're thinking about me. They're thinking about me. What I didn't want was, honestly, no, you don't need to tell me. I didn't really need nobody to visit me. Now, my daughter is different. She can come in and she can visit, what she did, checking in. And what I did, what I appreciate about my daughter was, like, after this happened, even in the house in Virginia, before I decided I want to stay in the hotel a couple of days, after it happened, that first week, she stayed with me. Now, even her didn't really want to be there. She like, we in this house? What? And she would get up and go to work, like, drive 45 minutes just to go to work and come back to my side of town. And so I got to give her credit that she was there for me. But for the most part, I just wanted to process everything. What really did help me, because I had already started my TikTok journey, was that I would channel my pain through content. So if anybody go and check out my content from 2022, the motivation, because I'm like, dang, people looking at me to motivate, But then I'm going through this grief. So I would channel it through there. People started supporting me there. And I love it today because the people who've been rocking me since 2022 said, Tressa, I see the growth.
Mm-hmm.
Your content, I see the growth. Even
Mm-hmm.
physical, you have lost weight. So yeah, I would say, and also if you can, there are Facebook support groups out there that you can join for free. Now I'm gonna tell you this, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I actually had to remove myself from a Facebook group, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because when I was in there, I thought like, oh my God, it's a group of we all dealing with the same thing. But what I had to understand, there would be some days I'm sitting in bed in the Facebook groups and I'm hearing other people's stories.
Mm.
When I hear somebody having a similar story, my husband passed away or my boyfriend passed away at 52, he had a heart attack. Now those I'm
You're
feeling what they're
triggered.
feeling.
Yeah, you're
Then I
triggered.
see somebody saying, today marks 10 years and I still haven't moved on. I'm so sad. I'm like, oh my gosh, I do not want to be 10 years. I'm still, oh my God, I do not want to do that. For me,
Mm-hmm.
some people can do the support groups. I had to remove myself from it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, my therapist, what I would tell somebody, get a therapist. It's okay to talk to someone, and your best friend, your family member is not your therapist. And then some people have good supportive friends that can do that. For me, the therapist is not biased. Like they're not going, they are trained and clinical trained to be able to handle the stuff, as well as they're not going to go because of HIPAA regulations. They can't go and tell your cousin and yeah, she did this and she did. No, I recommend therapy, 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 therapy. If it wasn't for my therapist checking in on me twice, and I did it twice a week up until, and like I said, I haven't had therapy since last August. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that
Wow.
if you ever get to that point, oh yeah, I can just call up. And another thing that I also did now, because I was scared, I went to my doctor. I'm like, oh my God, I'm having these tightness of chest. Oh my gosh. Now, of course, he tried to put me on something. He said, well, maybe you need to take this for anxiety and depression or whatever. And I'm gonna be honest with you. And it wasn't nothing but the grace of God. I didn't take it. I didn't even get the
Mm-hmm.
prescription filled. And it's so funny because I went and saw him on one day and I was crying. He said, oh yeah, he just subscribed it to me. He said, here you go. And 4 days later, I had to come in for a follow-up and I wasn't crying. He says, that medicine is working, ain't it? See, look at you. And I'm looking at him, I'm shaking my head and say, yep. I told my therapist, and I was like, I ain't even got the prescription filled.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't even get it. And the reason, and my therapist even said, Tressa, he's a doctor, you should take it. And so you can sleep at night. And I was like, no, because in my mind, I don't want to take nothing that's altering. Listen, I'm scared to
Because
die.
it's covering it up. It's covering up what you're feeling. It's not allowing you to process. It's numbing you.
It was. And my definition of numbing was, let me just get 2 or 3 glasses of wine. You see what I'm saying? So I was like, for me, and I'm like, no. And what I can't do, I'm not taking nothing, because if I take something, I can't drink my little wine. So I'm just like, okay, but she said, you never got that prescription filled. I said, no, matter of fact, it expired because after so many weeks,
Mm-hmm.
months or whatever, I think 180 days, it expired. But yeah, he tried to put me on something, take this pill at night to sleep. I think it was like a Xanax, a muscle relaxer. Take this Wellbutrin or something for anxiety. I was like, I don't
That
even like.
doesn't deal with the root of the problem.
No. What I hate about that is I should have been honest with him, because now, of course, my medical record, he prescribed this stuff for
Mm-hmm.
anxiety. And when I never forget, like I said, I came back and I wasn't crying. He said, see, that medication is working already. And I didn't want him to think that I was going against his orders, to tell him I ain't even taking it.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't, I never took it. I mean, I'm pretty sure if he look on the file and be like, dang, she didn't even get a I mean, because I think they has a record on your thing to show if it got it filled or not. But yeah, no.
I feel like as much as medical doctors are experts in their field, there is a lot that they don't know and understand that can align with your health. And many times over the years, I've been prescribed things that I did not fill the prescription, because it's like I said, it is not meant to fix the problem. It's basically a cover up. So if I'm coming in because I am dealing with stress, I have not processed my trauma. So it is affecting my body in these ways. And you give me something to cover up those things. That's not dealing with the problem. So I agree with you. I see my therapist every week. Um, it like, in addition to even recording these podcasts every week, to me, that's also a form of therapy, like through community. And when you talked about your TikTok journey and sharing and, it started attracting people, I 1000% see that as a form of therapy because you created a community around what you were dealing with so that you didn't feel so alone, so that you did have the support that you needed for what you were dealing with people who understood. And I've had a lot of people have judgment on me doing the same thing with different parts of my journey. When I experienced narcissistic abuse or when my sister passed or any of these things, that I decided, you know what? I am not trying to emotionally vomit online. I am trying to share my experience to help someone else who is going through the same. And in turn, you start to attract people that feel like they don't have the voice to say these things or that they felt like they were alone. So you create this community, which helps build your resilience.
Yeah. I mean, I build that TikTok over there, and of course they're trying to take it away, but I built it in 21 months. We're at 50,000 followers over there. Mm-hmm. And when I don't go live, I be getting DMs. You going live today? Cause I do Monday motivation and then with my Instagram. But what I had to learn was the reason why I did the TikTok and even with IG was because one, you get support from strangers that don't know you. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, to the listeners, and don't come at me, but I did not share much my journey on Facebook. Let's just keep it real. The Facebook are the people that know you. Mm-hmm. They the nosy people. They just gonna see you. See her putting this out here. Why is she telling all her business? No, I'm sitting here letting you know that listen, God has given me this test for a testimony to impact, to encourage others. And and he said, stay away from the Facebook. So I did. Mm-hmm. Stayed away from Facebook for a minute. They seem now to motivate, but they don't know half of some of the stuff. Like you got to be following me either on IG or TikTok. And so I did that purposely because I was like, if I stay over here, now I'm limited what I share. Cause I'm like, they're going to say this about me. They're going to judge me, do this. So I encourage anybody, especially those who are looking to try to heal and do content, but they feel like they can't be themselves, go to a different platform.
Yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. I love how you've, like I said, transmuted your pain into purpose. A huge commonality with most of the guests that come on the show, they have turned their pain into purpose. Their pain birthed their purpose. And it's been a theme where I'm like, I feel like this is like what do you call it? Qualitative research. Our pain births our purpose.
I love it.
So I just want to thank you again for your transparency, for your authenticity. I know it's not easy to share these stories, but when you are sharing it in a safe space, when you are sharing it with people who care and genuinely understand and there's no judgment, that's the best places to share it. So thank you, Tressa, for sharing your journey with us. Before we go, can you let the people know where they can stay connected with you, where they can learn more about you and from you?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, you can follow me on IG and TikTok. I do have a Facebook page as well, but you can follow me on both of those where I'm active at Coach Tressa, Tressa. You can follow me there. Also, I just recently again launched a YouTube channel called Convicted to Grow channel. If you click, go on to Convicted to Grow, you will find that there as well. Daily motivational shorts, as well as every Friday I drop a podcast, new episode every single Friday where I interview a guest who talks about their resilience story, anything they've done to grow in life. It's not necessarily just about grief. It's just in general growing in life. And so if you can go, it's on all the major platforms, but if you type in Convicted to Grow podcast, you'll find them on all the streaming platforms, and the video version is on Convicted to Grow channel. So yeah.
Awesome.
And if you book me as a speaker or anything like that, you can go to my website, which is www.tressamans with 2 N's and a S.com.
Perfect. I will have all of your contact info in the detailed section of the podcast so they can just click and connect with you directly. They don't have to go searching all over the net.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for allowing this safe space. I appreciate that. You're doing awesome.
No problem.
And I'm pretty sure this ain't gonna be the last that we connect again.
Absolutely. You're stuck with me now. Like I said, I truly appreciate you and your energy and your time. And to all of our listeners out there, feel free to rate the show, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. We would love to hear what part of Tressa's story resonated with you. What gems did you walk away with? What were your aha moments? Feel free to screenshot this episode. You can tag Tressa at Coach Tressa. That's CoachTressa. You can tag myself at The Real Makini Smith. And I just want to thank each and every one of you that continues to listen to the show weekly and helped us rank globally in the top 1.5% of most popular podcasts out there. And there are over 3 million. So thank you. Thank you. A healthy community is a healing community, and a healing community is full of hope because it has seen its own people weather, survive, and thrive. So let's continue to heal her.